Раз, два, три, чотири, п'ять. Галю, можете гостя покликати другого? Гостя? Пані та панове,
Ladies and gentlemen, this is the 112th day of the Russian invasion and the 9th year of the war of Russian Federation against Ukraine. My name is Andriy Shevchenko. From behalf of the media center Ukraine, Ukrinform, I welcome all the journalists who are telling the world about our battle for freedom. Today we will communicate with Konstantin Humeniuk, the chief surgeon of the armed forces of Ukraine. Konstantin, hello. Hello. So we decided to communicate with you after we got to know about the unique surgery which was conducted by you and your team in the field conditions. If I'm not mistaken, this was just could you please tell about the uniqueness of your of this surgery and how you managed to do all of that? Yes, thank you for the invitation. Well, I need to mention that as of today, the military surgeon who are trying to treat our wounded servicemen, we see the modern military injuries, which are different from the military injuries which we saw in Afghanistan in the Great Patriotic War, where the Ukrainians military servicemen took part, and then all of the later wounds and injuries. This was the case which happened here in the combat zone is connected with the very wide use of the modern non-invasion surgery. So the thoracoscopy, it has begun. We have begun to use it, and thanks to the not that significant invasion, we have nice results of the diagnostics and treatment. I would say that all of the countries which are now at war in the world don't have such an experience. One of our military hospitals had the serviceman with the shell fragment injury of the right shoulder, and this shell fragment was also had. There was the hematome, so we saw the full destruction of some of the internal, the kidney. So we decided not to use laparotomy. We just had to create the nephrectomy. We decided to use the modern methodology of laparoscopy, so we made it. We made this surgery. There are some of the technical complications of this surgery, but thanks to the skills and professionalism of the whole brigade of anesthesiologists, assistants, operational nurses, surgery nurses, we managed to create this surgery. We had the nephrectomy, the right side nephrectomy during the firearm injury, and we decided to create the less invasive surgery the next day, and the day after that the patient could already walk on his own, and there were only 4 little holes because of this methodology on the right side. And the next day, and it happens, this is a kind of the law of double events, unfortunately, we had the similar soldier with a similar injury with the right kidney which was almost fully destroyed. So the next day we had the second laparoscopy and nephrectomy. We had really nice results. All of our servicemen are alive. They're going on treatment with a treatment in the military hospital. So we saw a very nice efficiency on those less invasion surgeries. And I would say that as of today, our mobile hospitals definitely, in some of the indicators, we are using all the modern, less invasive interference as a laparoscopy. But we can see that the combats are very intense in Donbass, in particular in Severodonetsk. Could you please tell which injuries and which traumas you face most of all? I would like to mention that the character of those traumas and military injuries is really different from those injuries and wounds our servicemen had in 2014, for instance. Unfortunately, our enemy is using modern armament and weapons, the MLRS, Smerch, Uragan, Buratino, and we have the servicemen with multiple injuries of lots of anatomic parts. This is could be the limbs, and the character of these injuries is very complicated. There are lots of servicemen with loss of blood, and I would say that our military doctors at the battlefield, thanks to the introduction of the modern tactical medicine, are really using the modern methodologies of the world, like tactical combat casual help at the battlefield. All the instructors and trainers had certain training. They have those skills of tactical medicine. So we have this golden hour notion. During the hour, our wounded have to get to the mobile hospital to get qualified help. But the character of this injury is really complicated. That is lots of anatomic parts and also blood loss and so on. So the military surgeons are working, and I'd like to listen to Oleksiy Havrysh as well. He's an entrepreneur who is working now with the armed forces of Ukraine and who is dealing with the material provision of the military healthcare. Oleksiy, why is it important to help military healthcare now? Well, first of all, I'm very happy to see you, Konstantin. Firstly. Secondly, as the most important resource, the most important weapon we have now is the health and motivated warriors and fighters. So the military healthcare is now at the first front line, at the front line of the help and support for our guys who are protecting our land. So it happened like that we managed to combine our foreign partners who are helping us with the technical equipment, with the theoretical skills. We managed to organize several centers for training of tactical medicine and the primary care of the servicemen. What was Konstantin speaking about? That is the golden hour, which is the first hour. This is the most important what we have in the tactical medical science. The knowledge and experience of the servicemen on the care and support to help themselves and to help each other. Sometimes it's even more important than the medical equipment availability. But the medical equipment has to be in the talented and understanding hands, like all the medical military service, in particular Mr. Humeniuk, because when we first met and gave some equipment to them, you do understand that this is the person who understands what he's doing. God give you health, because you're so desperately in the hell of the war, in the hell of these conditions. You are doing just the God's affair, so God give you health. Are there any questions, please? Hello, Olena Rabinska, Channel 5. About the equipment and the modern medical equipment. What's the situation, the current situation with the provision? Because we know that the warriors are with the front lines are with the innovative NATO weapons, and they are getting in touch with the experts and they know how to use it. What about the medics in the field conditions? Because tactical medical science is done according to the foreign work, the foreign troops and their tasks and missions. How do you cope with that? And what is about medical equipment? How do you have such humanitarian or non-humanitarian support? And is it important? Thank you. Konstantin? Yes, thank you for your question. Well, in fact, I'd like to mention that all of our mobile hospitals in 2014 and 15 were very close to the combat areas of Donetsk and Lugansk regions. I'd like to say that even then, in 2014 and 15, this was the kind of the foundation for the military surgery and military medical science. So even then, we began the equipment of all of our mobile troops, and at that moment all of our hospitals were really equipped with the surgery complex, laparoscopy complex. and stations where our military surgeons could have surgeries during the usual traumas, the laparoscopy, appendectomy, you know, the modern method, and also there were some of the military injuries, but we didn't have such huge experience. It was even done with the prolapse and hernia. So then we decided to equip our mobile hospitals with modern equipment. So I can responsibly mention, as of today, as the chief surgeon of the Armed Forces of Ukraine, that all of our mobile hospitals are equipped with the modern equipment which helps us to save the lives of our fighters. It is divided into two categories. First is that what is coming and used to come from the commandment of the medical troops. That is a very substantial part, and undoubtedly we have a certain percent of the volunteers' help. I'd like to mention and help and thank all of the volunteers from each corner of the world and from abroad who are helping us and sending parcels with the bandages, with antiseptics. Just believe me, all of that is used because these materials, especially the bandages, can really be quickly used. So as of today, looking at the volume of the help and support given in the mobile hospitals, all of the equipment is available and it is modern. Are there any other questions, please? Thank you. I've got two questions from Ukrinform. Could you please tell, yesterday the Ukrainian railways, today with Médecins Sans Frontières, have presented the train, the evacuation hospital. If you know whether it can decrease or it is already decreasing the burden of the mobile hospitals at the front line. And the second question, are there any examples of the heroic work of your medical employees saving our fighters? Could you just list some of the examples? Thank you. Thank you for the question. Well, you know, the way of evacuation of our wounded and injured can be different. One of the ways is the automobile sanitary vehicles, the other is railway. So let me also not just tell you the information which is not secret, which can be now told about. A very substantial part is taken by the railway because it's used for the evacuation of our wounded and injured. This is a really positive way. But those are not the only ways to use. There are lots of other ways to evacuate our wounded. As of the heroic experience and how we save our warriors and fighters, believe me, every minute, every hour, we provide treatment for the wounded, both at the battlefield and directly in the mobile hospitals. I would like to say that we as military surgeons have such a huge experience when we have the wound of the heart, and our military surgeons in the mobile hospitals are saving them, and they have the reanimation thoracotomy, and they stop the blood, and they also, in fact, we save our warriors with lots of blood vessels injuries. This experience is really very substantial among the surgeons every day. I'm sure that there will be some times when we will just analyze all of this surgical help of those unique operational and surgeries which are done by our surgeons, and we'll definitely meet with the media. We will make you aware about some of the unique surgeries which have been done and are done now to save our fighters. As for the military medics, I would like to tell you that from under the bullets, from under the shellings, our military medics are taking our fighters from the battlefield. Unfortunately, we have some losses. Our medics have died at the battlefield as well. You know that the sanitary vehicles have been shelled as well. We are losing the medics as well. But those are heroes, believe me, who are daily and every minute they're saving our guys. Undoubtedly, there is a certain problem, an issue. To take a wounded person from the battlefield, there should be certain conditions. There is such a situation that unfortunately this golden hour is not enough, because we cannot take the wounded from the battlefield because there is shelling ongoing. So believe me, all of the medical employees, both at the battlefield and in our hospitals and in the military clinics and centers, are doing everything possible and impossible to save our warriors. Are there any other questions? Then I have a question. You've mentioned that the nature of the work and the nature of the combats is really different from what we could see or what we could hear about in Afghanistan and other regions. according to your opinion, what's the investment of your experience in the military medical science, and whether this experience can be useful for our partners in the West, for our NATO partners? Thank you for the question. The nature of the combats and losses and injuries and wounds depends on the type of the war. You know, the more modern the armaments are, the more severe are the injuries. We, the military surgeons, have analyzed, and we are analyzing the wars which used to take place. We have the experience of the Great Patriotic War. We read about that. Then the war in Afghanistan, in Yugoslavia, and then there was the storm in the Desert Storm, and where our allies, the US, and then Afghanistan and Iraq. So we, the military surgeons, were looking through the publications, what was the nature of the injuries there. And we can see that the injuries were totally different. Sometimes the climate impacts, sometimes they use the aeromedical evacuation, which is also important. But our experience witnesses, and we communicate with our partners, they also say that the nature of these wounds and the number of these wounds and injuries is really different from all of the wars from the past. So we gain this modern, unfortunately, this really sad modern experience. Oleksiy, do you have to say something to the volunteers or the charity organizations which are helping or would like to help to our military medics? Do you have any recommendation for them, maybe advice? Well, first and foremost, I would like to thank all of them. Secondly, I would like to emphasize that we need to have conscious volunteers work. You need to understand what you're doing and why. And you should feel that you are the part of this huge process, which we are implementing together for the sake of the victory, for the sake of the future. And also I would like to add, be grateful to such people who are sincerely and professionally using your help and support, because that is much better than when it's somewhere at the warehouse. It's much better when it saves lives. Be grateful. You should have this proper acknowledgement, and don't be disappointed. Don't be demotivated. Go on with your good deeds. Thank you. Konstantin, the last question to you. When someone asks you to remember about this 112 days, which moments, which memory slides will be the first to remember? Well, you know, in the media, there are several pictures. When the surgery room is there, the surgeon is sitting close to the table. This is a kind of a working mess around because there is lots of materials around, and the surgeons are 24/7 saving our guys. So when we remember about that, this is the sacred place for us, the surgery room. This surgery room sees so many emotions when we are fighting for lives every day and every minute. But just imagine what is going through our surgeons, through their hearts, how much pain and sufferings. So maybe this is the first thing. This is the sacred place, our surgery room where we save our guys. This is where we have the fight for lives. This is the place which should be highlighted and shown. This is the sacred place, the surgery room. Konstantin Humeniuk, Chief Surgeon of the Armed Forces of Ukraine, Oleksiy Havrysh, an entrepreneur and a citizen. Thank you for this conversation. Please follow our announcements. Stand with Ukraine. Thank you.